Great. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Adrian Dubkowski with Kimley Horn. I'm the one that will be preparing the traffic calming study for the city of North Miami. I'm here with my team, with Raquel, Ariel, and also Sage. So if you have any questions or comments, you want to talk to any of us, we're here to help you to get a better understanding of the city's concerns, the residents' concerns, stakeholder concerns specific to traffic calming. There's really a couple different buckets when we get into this, how we'll approach it, but really here we're focused on traffic calming. So it's really looking at the residential local streets as well as some of the collector roadways to calm the traffic that is in those areas. So tonight we'll go over the study process and overview of what this entails, the whole project. We'll get into some traffic calming treatments, provide you with a sample improvement plan to show you what the plan will look like that we will develop for the city. Look at some of the previously county approved roundabout locations, and we'll study those again to see if there's other treatments that we can do. And part of this comes from an inclination where roundabouts may not calm traffic or slow the traffic down in order for pedestrians to cross at specific locations. So we'll evaluate that as well. And then the main focus is to get stakeholder input from you all, and then also here in this meeting, but also the public that's watching. So this is the kickoff meeting. So we are at the very first stage here at the top, where we've developed some initial GIS mapping and prepared the website where people can provide their input to where they see specific issues related to traffic calming, but also traffic operations. So I mentioned this before, we're really looking at traffic calming here, but any traffic operational issues that are brought up, we'll also note those and then provide those to the appropriate agencies, whether it's Miami-Dade County or FDOT to kind of move those along. And we're really successful being able to do this and trying to improve some of the operational issues, specifically in City of Miami. The Coral Way roundabout that was recently installed, that actually came from input that we received from residents regarding traffic calming about, traffic operational issues were brought up, and that was addressed through this process, similar process. Next step, once we get the feedback from you all initially, is to move forward with data collection. Because this meeting was pushed out, we've already moved forward with some of the data collection so that we can stay on schedule with the study, but there's still additional data collection that we can do based on your all's input and other residents' input. When we get into the analysis, we look at several different types of analyses. One is livability. This looks at specific criteria associated with traffic volumes on local streets and what those volumes are to make sure that they're in range for local streets to operate as local streets and not operate as higher classification roadways such as collectors or arterials. We also look at a speed analysis, which gets into the 85th percentile speed, which is what the flow of traffic, what 85% of that traffic is traveling at, and we compare that to the posted speed limit. And if it's greater than 5 miles per hour, then we make the determination that traffic calming is required in a specific location. We also look at cut-through traffic. So that's the directional traffic, typically with commuters coming into or out of a neighborhood, and we look at that directional split in the morning rush hour and in the afternoon rush hour as well to see if we're triggering those thresholds. And for any of these two out of the 3 thresholds that we trigger, we then say that we can move forward with traffic calming in a specific location. And typically, when traffic calming is required on one local street, then we apply that to all the local streets in that area. Otherwise, we would just simply take the problem and move it over to one of the next streets. Once we develop that and identify the problem areas and where we can propose improvements, we would prepare the improvement plan. And this typically is a phased plan We would have at least 2 phases. So an initial phase, because traffic calming treatments can be expensive, and since it's citywide, there's a lot of area to cover and a lot of improvements to propose. We would focus on the locations that have the highest speed rates and highest volumes and most cut-through traffic, and then come up with a phased plan. We would also prepare a planning level cost estimate for this plan and provide it by phases in order to be able to implement it in a relatively quick manner. And then we would have a follow-up meeting to present those improvements to you all, get consensus from you all on where these improvements are being proposed, and then move forward with meeting with Miami-Dade County to get them to agree to this. And as part of this, we would also have an interlocal agreement that we would be developing for the city, so that the city would have this agreement with the county, so that we don't have to go back through an approval process with the county for every single one of these. It's more of like a blanket approval for the various different types of treatment. And then the study would be finalized and we would move into implementation. So touching on some of the treatments that we can do, typically with traffic calming, we want to modify the existing roadway network either horizontally or vertically. So horizontally, we want to shift traffic left or right to get it to slow down, or vertically up and down to get it to slow down in that manner. And some of the typical treatments that we would include would be speed tables. So essentially a speed table, there's speed bumps, which is typically something that's put into a parking lot. It's a high jolt over very short period, short distance, probably about 6 inches. It's 6 by 6. So it's very abrasive and rough on vehicles. That's typically just used in parking lots. Then you would go to a speed bump, which is a little bit bigger, but not, and something that can be used on residential streets. It's usually maybe 2 to 4 feet in length to cover the street. But typically what we recommend are speed tables, which the top of a table can accommodate a wheelbase of a car. So those are typically 15, up to about 15 feet in length. And then there's ramps that come to them, so they're a little more gradual and not as abrasive on vehicular traffic, so that emergency vehicles are able to maneuver over them without damaging the vehicles. Similarly, taking a speed table and putting it through a raised, at an intersection would result in a raised intersection. So essentially what we do at one of those is we take the whole intersection and bring it up to a higher level. You can see in this picture here. And the pedestrians cross at the level of vehicular traffic to make it more inviting to pedestrian traffic, and then also getting the vehicles to have to slow down. Now, in locations where we can't implement raised intersections, and because of their significant cost related to drainage issues, and if there's driveways that are located within the intersection, we could do a textured pavement treatment, which essentially is just changing the pavement to either be pavers or some kind of stamped asphalt or stamped concrete at an intersection to denote a residential area. So these are sometimes incorporated into like a gateway feature when you're entering into a neighborhood. Some other treatments that we would look at are mid-block bulb outs. Essentially what this does is narrows the roadway width down to essentially just 2 lanes, so vehicles have to slow down. So this is that horizontal reduction in width. Another example would be curb extensions. Typically we do these at intersections to narrow the distance that pedestrians have to cross at an intersection. And what we can also do is raised crosswalks. Typically we do these around school zones to enhance the pedestrian crossing experience there, as long as we can get the school board to agree to them. Sometimes the school board is opposed to these types of crossings because the buses have to slow down, which is quite ironic. So In some cases, we'll propose to do the traffic calming treatments outside of the school zones, just around the periphery, so that we can implement them without having to deal with the school board. Chicanes are also another treatment that can be implemented. Essentially, this is put in the middle of the roadway and causes deflection through the road, so that people have to slow down to go around it. Essentially, with all of these types of treatments, you're creating some sort of obstacle course to keep passenger car traffic outside of residential neighborhoods and keep them on the collector and arterial roadways, so they're not intruding into neighborhoods. Median extensions are also another treatment that can be implemented to reduce the lane width and provide a more a nicer landscaped feel to maintain a higher quality of life, with having nice green space in the middle of the road, and then sidewalks to again slow that vehicular traffic down. So this graphic here, this is just an example of a traffic calming plan that we did in the city of Miami, just to show you what the phasing would look like. So this is kind of like the last phase, where we had previous phases denoted, and then just laying in additional improvements in case those other phases don't work, and we need to put down more improvements. Typically, when we do speed tables or any type of treatment, we want to have a spacing of anywhere from 300 to 750 feet in between improvements or intersections for these to actually work favorably in a whole neighborhood. And you can see here that these improvements are pretty much on every street. So if we identify one street that's an issue, we need to do the whole neighborhood in order to keep the traffic, to calm it in that entire neighborhood. Otherwise, like I mentioned before, we'll just have the issue of moving the traffic to the next street over, because that street now is faster because it doesn't have any type of traffic calming on it. As part of our study, we'll also evaluate these 7 proposed locations. Well, 7 locations where roundabouts were approved by Miami-Dade County. This is just to reevaluate them, because the roundabouts are a significant cost, to see if we still want to propose roundabouts at these locations, or maybe go to something that's a little cheaper and more cost effective, such as the speed tables. Right, they're approved by the county, but they haven't been implemented yet. Correct. So there's a website that we've created, and if with your phone you can take a picture of the QR code, or put your phone over it, so then it'll take you to that website. And this website, I'll just leave it on here. This essentially, it's a place where we can gather your input. So a purpose of tonight's meeting, again, the main focus is to get your input on where you see issues within the city related to traffic calming. But again, we can also capture any traffic operational issues and then bring it to the right agency. And we can either write those down as you present them to us, or you can go to this website here and input them on the website, and I'll go through and show you what that website looks like. We also, in addition to being able to get your input on the website, we have the traffic calming improvements, so they're all laid out there so you can see what they all are, and you can make specific recommendations to those. So when you click on the link, it'll bring up the website here, and the first item on here is the public input map, which we'll go over in a second. You would just click OK here to open it up. And then we get into the different types of treatments that we mentioned here. And when you go to open up the map, it'll essentially bring up a map of the city, and you'll see input that's already been provided by other residents. And you can toggle on and off different features. You can change the map layer. So for instance, if you wanted to see this on an aerial, you can go over here to the layers button and bring up an aerial of the site of the city. There's different layers here that you can that you can click on to. What we're showing here now is just the city boundary and then the input that we've already received. But we can add other items such as the existing traffic circles, all the signals that are within the city, 25 mile per hour zones that we're in process of verifying, and also bus locations. These are things that we're going to use kind of on the back end when we come up with this plan. Those are existing traffic circles. There's also a legend that comes up too. And these are the different items that you can click on to input onto the map of where the improvements should go. Yes, sir. Yes, we are. You can, whatever is easier for you. We have 3 note takers, so we have 3 note takers, so.
I live on 127th Street in North Miami.
Okay.
As you probably know, there's a project called the Gardens, which is about to open up with 363 units. And if you look at all the other projects that are coming forward in the city east of 12th Avenue, it's almost 1,000 units. The traffic is going to be a nightmare. And the logical thing to do, since the garden sits right between 126 and 127, people will try and go around the log jams on 125th. Have you traveled any of those 125th at 4 in the afternoon until about 6? It's
Yep.
just a parking lot. Okay? So people are going to try and go around 126, 127, 128 to get to West Dixie Highway because it's a straight shot. We need to get some traffic calming. They've already been clocked at 45 miles an hour on my street. We've had a lot of accidents at Northeast 8th Avenue and 127th Street, specifically because of the speeding. And Northeast 8th Avenue is a racetrack.
Okay. Excellent.
So if you have 1,000 or more units coming online in the next 2 years, and they're not doing anything to widen the 125th Street because they can't, okay? Everybody's going to try and find a workaround. That's the logical thing that people do all the time. And we already see it happening on my street. In the afternoon, we have lines of cars at the stop sign all the way halfway down our block because people are trying to get around 125th.
So they're cutting through your neighborhood
Exactly.
right. So
And then, of course, FDOT and their insanity, did the West Dixie thing, which is now pushing the traffic on that side through the neighborhood as well.
what do you know what FDOT exactly did?
I don't think they know what they did,
Okay.
okay? Please, I guess they have a project, and once they get funded for it, they're gonna build it no matter whether it works or not.
Okay.
Yeah. And what's happening is people are now, coming down 6th Avenue, now there's a line of traffic because they shut off the entrance to West Dixie. So, and what's happening is people are now going west through the neighborhood to try and get around to 5th Avenue, which now also has a line, or the Memorial Highway. So we have all of this traffic that, through no fault of the neighbors, is being pushed through their neighborhood.
Right. So it's doing the opposite of what we're going to do. We'll push it back to the arterials.
Yeah.
So this is something FDOT did recently.
Yes.
Okay. Good to know. We'll look into that.
It's happening again.
is this more of a problem in the morning or in the afternoon, or is it just constant?
This constant. Heavier in the morning, heavier in the afternoon.
Okay. Is it directional? So say like westbound in the morning and more eastbound in the afternoon?
No, it's actually westbound in the afternoon.
The opposite.
Eastbound in the morning.
Okay. So it's everyone trying to avoid.
And the problem is that the road in 12th Avenue is straight shot. And all they have is stop signs.
Yep.
So I can tell you that I see on a daily basis, people running stop signs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just fly through and just hope, I guess, that, you know. They come to the
Yep. Yep. That's because it's just a straight shot, like you say.
And now what happens is they can go all the way east because when FDOT rearranged the road, you can now go down 127, you can cross Dixie Highway, cross Sixth Avenue, and keep going east. I saw an accident yesterday, a fender bender yesterday, where the guy was trying to cross West Dixie Highway headed east, and he didn't see, I guess he misjudged the speed of the other car.
Okay. Okay, great. Oh, did you guys get that all? Okay, perfect. Yes, yeah, we're to
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah. So, again, we're talking about a huge number of cars that are going to be coming online in the next 2 years because of all the development on
Yep.
east of, I guess you'd say east of Memorial Highway, but particularly 12th Avenue. And what happens is that because all of these, that 125th is a log jam to begin with, that all these cars are going to look for workarounds. And we already see it happening. Excuse me. We already see it happening like right now, even before these residences come online. You know, 126, 127th, 128, they're just natural workarounds. And you see people all the time coming now, and they turn right on 12th Avenue. And there's a line of cars down 12th Avenue, and some take 126, some take 127. And it's actually a straight shot on 127th all the way to Memorial Highway. So, you know, we need to, you know, and there's already accidents happening at these intersections. So, you know,
Great. Well, thank you so much for your input.
yeah,
We'll-
thank
we'll-
you. Oh,
We
and
have a
Eighth-
bunch of data that we're already collecting there, but now we can go back through and
Yeah, and
refine that.
and 8th Avenue as well, which is like a speed trap. I know the chief probably can give some input on that, but, you know, I mean, it's 8th Avenue from 125th to West Dixie Highway is another cut-through for people who don't want to deal with that crazy intersection that FDOT has created. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Would you like to come up and provide your input? So,
I'm just concerned about Keystone Point.
okay.
Have we had any put their plan on doing it? We are 30-year residents of Keystone Point, and our traffic situation, as the police officer can will tell you, is just it's a nightmare for us living on Biscayne Bay Drive, because that's the main thoroughfare running through Keystone Point, and we wonder what they were doing, because on Keystone Point, halfway through on Biscayne Bay Drive, there's a stop sign, and that stop sign is the only slowing device on this extremely long stretch of road through Keystone Point, feeding all of Keystone Point right there. And the idea is that we had speed bumps before, and they told us, oh, you guys can't have those because it's private property, whatever. But without the speed bumps that we had before, the speed has picked back up again where it is ridiculous. I've invited the department several times to bring their speed recording machine out to the yard and put it in the swale, and they've done so. And you go, wow, look how the traffic has slowed up this week.
For a couple of
And
days.
then they
and-
put it back on their vehicle and they take it away and go, here we are again, Keystone Point, the raceway here in Keystone. And the other point is, when you have this stop sign, and I was a state trooper for 2 years, and a Dade County deputy for 8 years when I left the department, and I'm a retired airline pilot. Those years I spent as a police officer when I got back from Vietnam made me respect the law. And it's just so disappointing to walk your dog and watch these cars blow by the stop sign and going, at least show some respect for the law. Just show us. I know the stop sign is nothing more than a yield sign or a slow sign, which we appreciate some of the calming. But we need a calming effect for Biscayne Bay Drive.
Is that an always stop that's implemented
no,
there, or
it's
is it a
just,
two-way?
It's a three-way stop.
Okay.
Three-way stop. But it is a laughable thing, and it's very annoying to me, walking my dog, to watch these cars, not even a red tail light going, we can see a tail
Right.
light. You know, you're going, just abide by the law, just show some respect for the law. So give us the law back and give us our speed bumps back, where we can walk Biscayne Bay Drive. And the funny point of this is, of all the homes we have in Keystone, there are probably only 15 of us who face Keystone. Everybody else is on a side street, so they don't see these cars. They're just
Mm-hmm.
blowing by, and they really don't see them. But when you live on Biscayne Bay Drive, you're going, come on, folks, this is stupid. Thank you.
Thank you
But
so
we'd like
much.
to see something like that.
Yeah, we'll definitely look at that, and potentially like a raised intersection there. If it's an always stop, we can see to get people to try to slow down and stop at the stop sign. We'll take a look
That's
at
all
it.
we'd ask
Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
I also live in Biscayne Bay Drive. Not 30 years, but 23 years. And when I first moved there, we didn't have that stop sign. And one of the things we attempted to do is have speed bumps, not just about 2 to 3 speed bumps, because
Mhm.
it's, I don't know what the distance, maybe a quarter of a mile. I can't tell you the number of excuses we have heard about why speed bumps are not permitted. Among them is the cars are not driving fast enough, often enough. The county does not allow speed bumps, and a few other reasons. We never had speed bumps. We had
The
what they
virtual
call
ones.
virtual speed
Mhm.
bumps. And it all works for a person that has never been there, but
Not for the residents.
the residents are the ones that are primarily speeding, and so they don't slow down. About 2 or 3 years after I moved in, another resident got that stop sign put in there. And of course, people were starting to blow by it, and somebody complained, and the police came, and I got a ticket. I don't blow by the
Mhm.
stop signs. And the police officer was irritated to be there because his chief had him come out and give tickets. So I didn't come to a complete stop, and I got a ticket. I've gotten one ticket in over 30 years, and it's 3 houses from that intersection. It's from my house. I will never call the police and ask them to enforce that, because you're going to get a police officer to be upset and expect people to come to a complete stop, or else he's going to give a ticket. What we need is active speed bumps on that street that is long,
Mhm.
spread out over 2 or 3. And I find it that I can't understand why there's all these excuses why speed bumps are not allowed. Sans Souci
which is a bunch of cul-de-sacs,
They have 'em.
they have them. I don't think somebody is driving, 10, 20 miles an hour or above the speed limit to get to the end of the cul-de-sac, but they have speed bumps. And I think it's not just, and just to be, as a note, we are commenting about Biscayne Bay Drive because that's where we live. But there are other streets within our community that could benefit from
Mhm.
speed bumps that would gradually slow people down. It's just unbelievable. And we're here because we're trying to find out if that is possible and if there are any county or city or state restrictions that prevent it, because we simply can't understand how Sans Souci has speed bumps and we don't.
Yeah, that's part of this study. We're doing data collection out there now. And if the volumes and the speeds show us that they're warranted, it's definitely something that we're gonna propose.
But that's been the problem when we have the police officers come out and put their sensors, right? And they'll pick up 2 or 3 cars that are driving 15, 20 miles over the speed limit, right?
Yep.
And they're saying that's not enough volume, right? It only takes one guy to kill a kid or a resident who's
Mhm.
walking, or somebody who's biking on the road, or for that matter, an animal.
Right.
My neighbor lost his dog before I moved in there because he came out and somebody was driving fast. So that's one of the problems where we're irritated, because it seems to us there's always a reason to say no. And then you start driving throughout Dade County, and in Miami Shores has popped up a lot of
Mhm.
speed bumps. And then we go again and we ask, and there's always a reason why there's no. So, we'll submit it, and we'll ask for fellow residents to live on our street to comment and ask. But it's just unfortunate how it seems like there's no willpower, or maybe there's somebody with politics or political influence that doesn't want to see it and drives on that street.
I mean, I can tell you this, that if the data shows that it's warranted, we're definitely gonna propose something there.
And what's the
And
data?
it's not just speed. So we look at livability thresholds in addition to speed, and then also cut through traffic. So we look at those 3 parameters to see whether it's warranted or not. And if it's not warranted, we'll also sit to see what other alternatives we can come up with to get you at least something, get you some relief.
Okay, and how did Sans Souci get speed bumps? Because I don't think, none of those qualify based on your criteria that you just mentioned.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how they, because those are not private roads. I don't believe they are.
No,
They're
it's
public. So technically, they would have to follow the same criteria for the public roads, because there's no interlocal agreement where you can kind of bypass some of those criteria, even though the county still requires you to do that. It just makes the implementation easier.
Now,
So
all
I'm not sure. I can't speak to that.
but you're familiar that they exist?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Is that something that any speed bump, because originally there was some speed bumps in Keystone Point that were put in, and they had been taken out because supposedly they were not approved by the county, I believe. The current ones were approved.
Were approved, but there
But
was
there were
some,
some previous ones that had to be removed, including the virtual ones had to be removed because they were not
They didn't go through the
approved
county.
by,
yeah, that's a big portion of our study, is to actually coordinate all of that with the county so that we don't have this issue again, and so that there is an interlocal agreement. The goal of this is that we have a study that points out a lot of locations where we need to implement these types of traffic calming features, and then we don't have to go to the county for their approval later when we go to implement these, because we already have that interlocal agreement drafted between the city and the county, so that with that report, the city says, look, here's our report, we can implement these, and then they can move forward without having to deal with the county.
and the funds for this calming devices are coming from where, the city or
That
the
would be
county?
coming from the city.
The city.
So if you can request county funding for it, the issue is that then the thresholds instead of 5 miles over the posted speed limit, you're looking at 10 miles over the posted speed limit because they don't want to pay for any of these improvements. So they make it more tedious or more rigorous, so you won't warrant any of these types of treatments.
Okay. And what is the criteria to,
It's 5 miles per hour over for the 85th percentile speeds. So 85% of the traffic that's on a roadway segment has to be driving 5 miles per hour over the posted speed limit to meet that criteria. For volumes, it's we want to be in a range of 100 to 300 vehicles per hour in the peak hour for the roadway segment. If you're over that, then you trigger the criteria of being over 300. 300's really not a lot of traffic. And then the cut-through traffic is more than 25% directional. So a lot of times, the cut-through traffic, even in a residential neighborhood that is quote-unquote gated, where it's just those residents, you'll be able to trigger that requirement because everyone in the morning is leaving and then everyone is coming back in the afternoon.
okay, I don't think we qualified, but thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Didn't the commissioner's office told me that, the county has relaxed the criteria, with the traffic calming devices? Not as onerous as it used to be?
That's related to who's funding it. So if the city is funding it, it's easier to get those approved. The thresholds are lower than what the county would typically look at if they were going to fund the improvements. So the speed goes up to 10 miles per hour over. The cut-through traffic is 50% directional. So it ends up being really difficult to justify that, to get improvements done. So then it just ends up being a local matter where when the city's doing it, the thresholds are a lot less. They're more relaxed. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. The three requirements you're talking about, speed, number of cars and so on, are they and/or? Do you have to meet all three? Or
No,
any
you
one
have to
of
meet
them?
two.
You have
two
to
out of
meet
the three.
two.
Correct.
Because I know the street he's talking about, and there are never going to be 100 to 300 cars going through there, in an hour. But I know they're going fast enough.
We also
But
look
so-
at daily too. So daily is another
What was the third
threshold.
requirement?
It's
Speed?
cut through,
Oh,
directional.
cut through. So how do you manage how do you determine cut through?
It's directional. So if you have more than 25% of the traffic going in one direction versus the other, if that split is greater than 25%, then
I
it's
think their
considered cut through
that
traffic.
street, which is important, is only going to meet one criteria.
Speed.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So how do we get a relaxation in that requirement? Can that be part of your report,
Well, yeah, we can take a look at
a
that.
recommendation?
What was the specific location again? Just so that we make sure to capture it.
Biscayne Bay Drive.
Okay. Is there any specific limits? Or is
What's the main intersection that,
you got it?
what-
Okay.
what's,
Perfect. Okay. We got it.
you know where it is?
Yep. Yep.
Okay,
Well, it goes in dead end, but it
yeah.
goes east and then it turns left. There's no major, I would suspect there's no major speeding when it's parallel to the intercoastal,
Right.
but it's that point that goes northeast and south, east and west. There's a stop sign, remember the name of it?
They know which one it is.
They got it.
They
They got
got
it. We got it.
Then the other one on the process, with all of the items you listed, is there a schedule? Are there dates on there? Specific hard dates?
Yes.
And that's all on the site that we can access?
The schedule is not that was provided to the city. We can put it up on there.
That would be nice.
Yep.
And then the people that are out there doing the testing, reading, are they people with a clipboard or do they look like trees? Because someone with a clipboard stand there's going to slow traffic down.
There's
You know what I'm
tubes,
getting at?
there's hoses laid out on the street.
So it's all mechanical?
Yep.
You have cameras or anything like that?
No, because we can't capture speeds with cameras. We can only capture volume.
Okay, and then just one comment to our neighbor. The officers are always going to say either stop or don't roll through. I've rolled through it, I've gotten a ticket, it was my fault. So I don't hold them responsible for that. I don't think it's because they don't want to be there. I think our guys really like our city, so.
I respect all the police officers
Yeah.
here, they work very hard, but
Yeah,
was wrong.
that might have been something happening at home that we don't know about.
But he was irritated because his chief
Yeah.
said, I don't wanna be out here getting wet and giving tickets. Because of the sprinkler, right? But
Well,
it's one of these things, you wanna slow it down, but then.
I think in general, that's not gonna hold with our police. They're there, and the law is the law, period.
That's why I won't call.
I think, Mohammed, we only have like 15 minutes left. I think there's another meeting here. Yeah,
Hi.
hello.
So I used your website a little bit and tried to mark some of the spots, but I just wanted to say, always thrilled when the officers show up. I live at a corner that would love to have officers all the time. Please send them out. Happy when they come. Let's see. I'm north of 135th,
Okay.
between 16th Avenue, this is Northeast 16th and Northeast 6th Avenue. There's quite a few streets that are extra long. And particularly running in front of the schools, we have North Miami Elementary on 145th, and some of the streets to the north and south of that are very long blocks, and they invite a lot of speeding. We have a lot of donuts happening in the intersections up there. We have had some attention over the years, additional stop signs, and we do even have a speed bump on 10th Avenue. It helps a ton, and we would take more of them all over the place, please. But definitely, the super long blocks are a problem area, and as you approach the school, to me, it's just, it's so scary. So if we could get additional speed calming mid-block on some of those really long
Mhm.
blocks, it'd be great. The other thing I just want to draw attention to, and I wrote it in to the site, is the curve when you are near the Lexus dealership. It kind of goes from 142nd to 141st. That whole area is just a cluster, and we're starting to get a lot of development approved around that area. There's already multifamily in the area. There's new multifamily going to come online relatively soon, and other, coming down the pike. And coming up with a resolution for that, it should be a really big priority. To me, the only way that could be solved in a very intelligent way would be a bridge, because the proximity of the rail line to Biscayne is so tight that it just doesn't allow for any mistakes. I've seen horrible things happen at the train tracks there, and it's just, it's a really dangerous spot. The other thing I'd like to say is all of the avenues coming onto 135th, as we get more and more traffic, could really stand to have well-marked turn lanes and turn signals, because right now, we have a lot of kind of deteriorated asphalt at the edges of almost every single avenue coming from the north and south onto 135th. So, and then there's almost zero paint left on the road, so nobody knows, what's a right turn, what's a left turn,
Mhm.
what's a straight, and you get a lot of kind of confusion and jostling for position in all of those. So, you see it at 14th, at 12th, at 10th. Well, 10th, it doesn't go on to 135th, but at 8th. So all of those really could use some paint. Additionally, north of 135th, some new traffic calming has been added, stop signs and that kind of thing throughout the neighborhood. But the paint that was put on the roadway has worn off very quickly. It was temporary paint. It wasn't like really resilient striping. So it's relatively new stop signs with no paint on the road. You see people blow by those stop signs all the time. There's a few of them north of 135th. So there's one on 10th at 143rd. There's another one on, I think, 8th and 137. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, but there's quite a few of them throughout the neighborhood that have, the stop signs went up, maybe a little paint went on the road, paint's all gone. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so just scattered all throughout that area. A little bit of attention's been paid, but a lot more needs to be paid because it's accident prone and surprisingly heavily trafficked, because there's a lot of multifamily on 6th
Mhm.
and Dixie, and that area, especially at school times with all the schools we have up in there, is very heavily transited.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your input.
Hello. I'm going to mention 4 different points.
Okay.
I work on the corner of 125th and 4th Avenue. That's
Okay.
4 lanes that people want to cross on a regular occasion. Every other month, 2-car total accidents, like total wreck on that intersection. Just down the road, they do have like a flashing light that a pedestrian can cross.
Mhm.
I think something along those lines might help the traffic, or an official left turn. There's also heading east on 125th on the railroad tracks, so I think that's 14th. It used to have a sign to not make a left, and that sign has been removed. That's also a little bit of a problematic area.
At which location?
That is, excuse me, coming from Biscayne? That's the railroad tracks. 125th heading eastbound.
Okay.
Yeah.
Westbound.
Going westbound, going westbound.
Okay.
There used to be a no left turn, and now it's gone. And then there is a school off of 125th and 12th Avenue. It's 12th Court that goes down that way. That morning traffic has caused a lot of speeding because of the school being, school hours and people rushing through there.
Right.
I think those are all the ones that I
So
want
is
to
the
mention.
rushing through the school zone, or is it on the streets coming up to the school zone?
The school zone doesn't hit until close to the stop sign, which is in the middle of the road.
Okay.
So it's leading up to the school
Okay.
prior to school
Great,
zone.
great. Good, we
And,
can do something about that.
Yeah?
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
cool. But the 125th and 4th is scary.
Okay.
We put a barrier wall to protect our building because, like I said, every other month, 2 cars totaled. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else?
So, hi, so, I agree with everything everybody has said and Michael has said, but if this is on the record, so right by, Northeast 127th Street and 12th Avenue, we have had so many near fatalities before any of this. So I don't know how you are going to, add this new apartment building that might be starting to have occupancy soon with 358 apartments. And also on 126th Street with the 5 restaurants, right across the street from there. And then if this new building gets built, which, it's going up for approval tomorrow, 1150 Northeast 125th, and 11th Court, I mean, that's going to be a real mess because it's, there's no way people can make a left turn from there onto 125th Street, but most likely people will try to make illegal left turns because otherwise they're going to have to go back through the neighborhood to 123rd Street and come back up to 10th Avenue. They're going to be like trying to snake through there or making illegal left turns. So they're basically feeding onto 125th at the same point that the Gardens residents on 120 between 127th and 126th and Northeast 12th and Northeast 11th Court. The main entrance and exit is on 12th Avenue. If you have that other building there too, it could be a real disaster. And like Mike said, I mean, just the fact that people are using 127th now, and I sent, Ariel, I sent you the map of the DOT. So people are just coming straight down 127th Street, straight to 14th Avenue, and where Marisol was talking about, then you get down there and there's the railroad tracks, and it's really been a mess even before you add all these new residents. So my question is, how are you adding on your study residents that are, occupancy that hasn't happened yet, but will happen soon?
We add the volumes in for the committed developments.
Okay.
That's added into the analysis.
Okay, because we really need help,
Yeah,
I
we're
mean,
going to do what we
Okay.
can.
And I don't know, I wish the developer was also here, like fighting for this too, but, because I know that that's only going to help his building too, so.
And something to keep in mind, we've seen some municipalities where with new development coming in, one
Yeah.
of the requirements is to do some kind of traffic calming for that specific project. So that may be something that the city may
Yeah.
want to consider in the
Well,
future of,
don't get me started.
of
Okay.
implementing that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you talk to them. But anyway, but we really need help. So I really appreciate your help.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
does anyone else have any additional input? All right, well, thank you so much for coming tonight. We really appreciate your input, and we'll definitely take all of this into consideration as we go through the data collection and then the analysis. So thank you so much. Does it? Yeah. We tried it this morning, it worked, so. We will. We'll coordinate with the city's communication department, and anybody that has input that isn't able to put it into the website, they can give it to the city directly, and then the city will send it to us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's part of the traffic calming is to reinforce those stop signs in certain locations. So if you do raised intersections, you force people to slow down. It'll be a rolling stop, but at least they slow down. Ariel, I think you do. Do you know if it works? The URL does. Okay, we'll have to update that. We'll go ahead and update that. Yes.